Today we're in Winter Park to speak with Del Kieffner to get his thoughts and some of his wisdom. Why did you decide to become a band director?
Tina, I don't know that I ever really decided I wanted to be a band director. It kind of growed like Topsy. All I knew is that when I was young, I was playing a lot of music. My dad was a trumpet player, not a very good one, he's self-taught, and I used to think that was great. So I enjoyed that, and I joined the band, and I grew up in the band. And finally I decided I knew I wanted to be in music of some sort, but being a band director was not one of the goals at all. In fact, I didn't have a goal. I just wanted to be in music. So when I graduated from high school, I had enrolled at IU, and IU that year was starting late because all the veterans were coming in and they were building additional living quarters. So they started like in November, which meant they were going to go to school 7 days a week for the rest of the year. And me being a lazy guy, I didn't want to do that. So I went to Indiana State and asked if I could start there, and that was in Terre Haute. They said, sure, come on over. So I went to Indiana State, which was primarily a teacher training school. And while there, my band director, Joe Gremmelsbacher, we just sort of grew. We grew and grew. And eventually it seemed like that's where my role was, to be a band director. And Tom Bishop was there with me, and he was growing into a band director too. So we grew into band directors together, graduated together, and it was just a general easy trip. But we got pretty dedicated eventually.
Well, when and where did you begin your teaching career?
I started teaching in a little town in northern Illinois. 1,250 people in the town, a band of about 55. The previous band director was very good, a good teacher, and the band was a good band. Unfortunately, he didn't have the rapport with his students that he needed to have to get the best out of them. I was maybe 3 years older than some of them when I got there, and we had a good time, and the kids responded well, and they were a good band. And we went to festival, went to contests, and we scored superior all the way through. And that was the year before they hadn't made it at all. So all of a sudden I was a huge success. I didn't do it, he did it. I mean, it was his fault. but we did a lot of good stuff together. And so the next year started out the year well. And in December, I got my greetings from the Uncle Sam. I was drafted, and I spent 2 years in the Marine Corps.
Wow.
I was drafted into the Marine Corps.
Well, thank you for your service.
Thank you. I enjoyed it, I think. Most of it.
And what happened after you left the Marines?
Well, I went back to school and I finished my master's. I went to Indiana. I was in Indiana for 3 years as the assistant director to Hal Muir at Vincennes, and he was a fine director. And we had 4 or 5 bands. They all went to festival all the time and really did a good job. And in fact, they all received superiors all the time.
Mm-hmm.
from the 7th grade right on up through. They were just, we had a good program going. We gave IQ tests, and we gave the seashore test, and we could select students, and we had a lot of students to select from, and we gave auditions on different instruments, and it worked wonderfully. And the kids just came in by droves.
That's great. Well, how did you end up in Florida?
Well, my daughter was 2.5, my oldest daughter. My youngest daughter was 6 months. And each one of them, the youngest one was all right, but the oldest one kept going to the doctor every 2 or 3 weeks. So I told my wife, I said, you know, we don't have to do this, because the weather was awful in Indiana. I don't know if you've ever lived through an Indiana winter, but in the middle of Indiana, it's mushy and it's cold and it rains and freezes and snows and thaws, and it's just mushy. So she said, well, what do you want to do? And I said, I don't know. So I wrote a couple of letters to, get this, either Colorado or Florida. I know 2 different places. I said, where we hear from, we'll talk about. So we got a letter from Colorado, and it included orchestra, and I did one orchestra. And then I got a telegram from O.R. Davis, the principal at Edgewater, saying he's got a job for me. I mean, I had sent in my resume, of course. So anyway, make it a short story. We came down and looked at it, and I said, okay, fine. So that's how we got here. And, excuse me, and we just sort of fell in love with it, and we just didn't want to go back anymore. I mean, we could have gone back, but we didn't.
And did you find anyone you knew in the area?
There were a couple of people that we didn't know were here, but they were here. One of my high school classmates was here that I didn't know about. And of course, Tom Bishop came down the same year that we came down. And Tom was at Lake Wales, and I was at Edgewater. So Tom and Barbara and Marilyn and I had known each other very well in college.
Well, that's great. In your career, were there people who had strong impact on you?
Yes. My high school band director, although he didn't impact me to be a band director, but he was a good guy, and he worked hard at getting us to enjoy music. My college band director, who was a real educator, not just a band director. Then, of course, there was Jack Williams, Mark Casey, Tom Bishop, Chris Rumpf, who was the band director at Boone when I came. And that was probably, those people were my primary impact people. And of course, Colonel Sandelman, the Marine Corps Band, was an impact.
Strong impact,
yeah.
Yes. And I know you had an ongoing strong friendship with Chief Wilson also.
Oh, Jim Wilson, Chief. We've always been friends, but we developed some real close friendships when we were officers on the board. He was the secretary, and I was the chairman of the district during the teacher walkout, which was an interesting time of our lives. Should I tell a story?
Yes,
All right.
please, please.
The year that the teacher walkout, Jim and I were board members, and we both walked out of our schools, so we were locked out. We could not use any, we couldn't use any school equipment, couldn't enter the schools. We were disallowed from entering. They took our keys for the school, everything. I mean, we were out. Actually, we had resigned. So comes the solo ensemble. Well, what do we do? Because we had a huge district. It was Orange, Volusia, Brevard, and I don't know if Lake or Seminole County. Seminole County was part of it.
And they weren't out on strike?
Yeah, everybody was.
Everybody was out on a
Yeah.
lockout.
Everybody, but some of the people went out on strike, and some didn't. So anyway, we were out on strike. Well, finally, Jim and I it was getting frantic time. We had to get judges for this huge district. So we went down to Streep's Music, and Bud Streep set up conference calls for us on his line. So we talked to judges all over the state, all at the same time. We'd set up the conference call for X number of time, then we could sit down and talk to him, which was good.
And that was cutting edge of technology.
Absolutely.
At that time.
I didn't even know that could happen. Thank God for Bud Streep at that time. He really did it. Street music. But anyway, so we got all this set up. So Jim and I had to get that program run off and the schedule and everything. So we would go down to Jones High School, Jim's school. Jim kept a key to his band room. And we'd go down like at 11 o'clock at night. And we'd go in and he had a ditto machine in his office, which none of the rest of us had either. Jim had everything in his office. He was amazing. But we'd run off this program, we'd go down there, and when the night watchman would come, we'd turn off the lights and we'd hide behind the desks. And then as soon as the night watchmen leave, we'd turn the lights back on and start going at it again. And that's how we got the program run off. And that's how we did it. I don't know why we weren't arrested. I mean, we could have been taken care of a million times. But Jim was the man.
Well, other than advising young directors not to get arrested, do you have any other words of wisdom or advice that you would like to pass on to them?
Yeah, I think it's important that they develop a sound in their mind that they want their band to have. And they do that by listening to bands and hearing good bands and listening, what do I like about this one? What do I like about this one? And develop all that together. My band, I want my band to sound like the Marine Band. I like the clean, concise, precise sound that the Marine Band had. To me, that was, Colonel Sandelman did it right, you know. I just thought but anyway, that's what I liked. And I also I remember that you could go around and you could hear bands warming up in not know who they are or who the director is, and you could identify that band by the sound they had. I knew Jack Williams' band every time I heard it. I mean, I could hear 100 yards away, and I knew it was Jack Williams' band. Mark Casey, same way. Tom Bishop, same way. It was just, there's a sound. And I hope that they could do the same with me, you know? And I just feel like that's important, that you develop a sound. Secondly, you be careful as a director as to who you associate with getting your sound from. Choose your fellow band directors that you're listening for and listening to for their quality, not for their partying ability. Okay? Thirdly, I'm going to give a little philosophy here. I am completely blown away by the number of band contests that our bands go to. I don't think that's what music education was based on. I think music education is based on teaching music and for the enjoyment and for the pleasure and for getting the whole ball game together. And it's not a contest of my band's better than your band. And it should never be that. What that does, the parents seem to be the ones that come out feeling the ego bit. And if they're not careful, the band director can come out the same way. It could be almost an ego trip for the director. And that's not good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you like the festival concept of evaluation?
Well, and I just don't think that bands, I think you can burn kids out. I really do. And I think a lot of our bands are burning their kids out before they're ready. Look at your enrollment in the band at the 9th, I'm talking about high school now, at the 9th grade level, and then the same kids at the 12th grade level. How many kids are left? How many of the same kids are left? A lot of the kids say, I can't give the amount of time that the band is asking for. I've seen bands that practice every day after school, or at night, or in the evening. Every day for a couple of hours. And then weekends they travel. They go to Georgia, they go to Alabama, they go to North Florida, South Florida for a contest. That's gratifying for the student for a little while. It's gratifying for the parents because they think it's a big deal. But it's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of
Well, let's move on here.
Okay.
What is it about your personal character that has allowed you to maintain such high quality of musical excellence?
I guess German stubbornness. And basically I just feel like we're going to work. I'll work until I get it the way that I like it and the way the students like it. Many times I would ask students, are you satisfied with what you've accomplished? Is this good enough? Are you going to leave it here? And 98% of the time they'll say, no, we're not ready. I'm not ready.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll go. And that's a feeling that I think my personality has imbued in them. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I might be wrong. But that's the way it is.
How do you feel about the fellowship that your colleagues through FBA and Phi Beta Mu have helped you?
I can't tell you how important that has been to me. all my cohorts, all my friends, all the people that I look up to, that I listen to, those are the people that are with me, that are around me all the time. And that's just the way the profession is. My friends are my cohorts, or my fellow workers.
Mm-hmm.
They understand my problems, I understand theirs, and we work together. Too many of our young people are thinking in terms of, I'm going to beat you. I'm going to get more superiors than you get superiors. You know, our bands at Edgewater, the kids were very successful. I think in 16 years that I was there, we received one rating less than superior. And that was in marching band, when I had the best marching band I ever had that year. And one mistake blew the whole thing, that's the way it happens. But so it goes.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of life.
They may have learned more from that.
I did. I learned to build in every show a gathering point. Really. You know, I learned that at this point in the music, you're going to be here. No matter how you get there, you're going to be there. And then we'll start again. And if you get there on time like we're supposed to, that's fine. If you don't get there in time, you better be there. That was it.
Well, now that you've retired, how do you find that your retired life is different than your working life, whether it was in the band room or as in a supervisory position?
I'm very relaxed. I enjoy my grandchildren. I do the things that I like to do, that I want to do. I don't do the things I don't want to do. And I've enjoyed my retirement. I've been retired 23 years now. And that's a long time. And I've been away from the business. That doesn't mean I am not interested, but I've been away from the business for that long. And some of the time I purposefully stayed away because I didn't want to interfere.
Although I know that you're very receptive if someone comes to you for advice or counsel or mentoring.
I will do the best I can.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've about come to the end of our half hour, but
did I tell you?
I'd like you to tell us some stories.
Did I tell you about how the FBA became a marching concert and solo ensemble concert?
The 3 different
Yes.
festivals. No, you didn't include that in our interview, so let's hear about that.
When I came here in '57, all the festivals were on one day. I couldn't handle that. So I went to my principal, I said, do I have to do this? He says, you're the band director, you choose. I said, okay, I'm not going to go. He said, okay. So I talked to Chris Rumpf. We put together an all-city band program. We had Nilo Hovey come in as a clinician. We had Don Jacoby come in as a clinician. We did solos and ensembles. We did concert. And we just had we did that for 2 or 3 years. Finally, the FBA allowed us to do marching band in the fall. All the other districts came, I'm talking about our district. All the other districts came and said, yeah, that's the way to do it. So that's what we did. Then we worked on getting the solo and ensemble separated from the concert. So we worked on that because it's a natural transition from marching to solo and ensemble to concert. So we worked on that, and we were again the first district that was allowed to do that. We did it. We worked hard at it. Everybody says, yeah, that makes sense. And they've divided it up for the district. And now that's the way they do it. And I felt like Chris Rumpf and I were personally responsible for that, but it was my German
Is that stubbornness
that said, no, I'm not going to do it. So I did.
Well, I know you've had bands put together, like reunion bands of your previous students. Could you talk a little bit about that experience?
We've had, I guess, 3 or 4 reunions. And I've had students come from all over the country, literally. Texas, California, New York, all over. And they all come back because, first of all, they want to see their other friends also. But they all come back and say how important band was to them. And I had a 3rd trombone player, bottom chair, probably shouldn't have been in band. Probably didn't play well enough to be in band, but he wanted to be in band. So we worked him in, wrote out a lot of stuff that he couldn't handle. So anyway, he came up to me after he graduated. He came in from somewhere. He's a high muckety-muck somewhere now. He said, you know, Mr. Kieffner, I'm going to tell you something. I would not have graduated from high school had it not been for the band and you. He said, I wanted to be in the band and I wanted to be in your band. And I came to school every day because I was in the band. He said, I graduated, I went on and I did this and this and this. And now he's been very successful. And I'm pleased about that one, especially.
Well, that's great. Well, I've certainly enjoyed our afternoon together.
I did too, Tina.
And we want to say bye-bye and Godspeed to you.
Thank you.
And we will see you at the conventions, I'm sure.
Looking forward.
Thank you.
Take care.